My loves, do you need some validation? I have some validation for you. This conversation is giving you the highlights from a workshop I just did called Actually Healthy Validation, because there's a shadow and light side to seeking validation and to giving validation. Now, here's what you need to know about the timing of all things. Heart Centered membership is closing tonight, Sunday, June 30th. If you are listening to this now, let me give you the gifty codes. You head to daniellelaporte.com/membership. You use the code at checkout, LIFE15, that's LIFE15, and you get $15 off of your first month in the life track of the Heart Center membership. We also have a business track if you are all about conscious careering and entrepreneurship. And what I'm seeing happening with people signing up for the business track is I've got some 9-to-5ers and corporate types who have the entrepreneurial spirit, and they're getting their bosses to pay for the membership. And I can help them get their boss a break. So use this code at checkout, BIZ50. That's BIZ50, and you get $50 off of your first month in the business track, which is typically $75. The value is amazing. Now, if you haven't been along for the ride and heard me talking about what's in this community, the life track is for body, mind, spirit support. And I do a workshop every month, the first Thursday of every month, part of which you are going to hear in this conversation around validation. That workshop then sets you up for learning for the rest of the month. I create learning prompts, healing prompts. We have the most gorgeous, well-organized, navigable app called the Heart Centered app, where you get access to every single meditation, mantra, visualization. You can just go in and you can cue words like inner child, relationship, conversation, energy cleansing, and everything I have ever podcasted, recorded, done a video on, a workshop or a class on, or a course on, comes up in that search. It's incredible. The value is amazing. It's been so expansive and heartening to see all the new people coming in. We've got over 30 countries represented, all different kinds of belief systems and careers, and everybody is there with the intention to live a more heart-centered life, to regulate their nervous systems, to move from unhealthy to healthy validation. So let's get on to that. Okay, so let's go over 3 kinds of basics. 2 layers of our whole self: soul, higher self, Buddha nature, infinite nature, Atma, Atman, Brahman, divine love, soul. Okay. And then we have, so higher self, we have smaller self. And these terms I'm going to offer, they're each different, but all the same. These are like personality constructs that come from the same person. Your smaller self, your ego self, your inner child, your perceived woundedness. And those are the places from which we need, want, seek, and give validation. Okay. Fundamental. What is healing? Healing is us making the unconscious stuff conscious. It's why we incarnate. That's why we're here today and always. We bring the light to the shadow. We bring the light to the shadow. It's not about digging to get the shadow up. The shadow will come up. It's about when the pain comes up, we meet it. Pain comes up again, we meet it. The emotionality, the need for validation, we meet it with love. Healing is making the unconscious stuff conscious. We go into the basement of the psyche. Okay, last fundamental. What is love? Love is not a feeling. It is not a pop love song about having your needs met. Love is a state of being. Love is a virtue. Love is soul. Love is Buddha nature. Love is sky. Emotions are the clouds. Moods are the weather. Love holds all the moods. Your complete beingness, your Christ consciousness holds all the stuff. Your inner leader, your inner light, your soul holds your inner child. That's why we're here. Now, you can have feelings about the state of love. You get into that beingness of love and vastness, of forgiving, of acceptance with a capital A. You may feel happy. You may feel joy. You may feel giddy. You may feel sadness. You may feel relief. All the lower chakras are going to they're going to be stimulated in such a way. They're going to have emotions about the soul state of being. My most simple definition of love is your happiness is my happiness. And getting clear on that requires cleansing practices, which is why we do the meditating and the salt bathing and all of the things. Okay. Emotions are the language of the inner child. This is a bit of a bitter pill. Your happiness is your inner child most of the time. Your sadness is your inner child most of the time. So most often, are we in an emotion? Yeah. Where most of us are dabbling in enlightenment. So we hit that state of divine love, of virtue, of love beingness. We remember it, we embody it. It'll be in our thoughts, our speech, and our actions. We slip out. Then the emotions come and say, what about me? Stuff in the basement says, wait a second, I'm having feelings. Inner child says, hey, I need some validation. So the inner child wants to be validated in all the ways. So I think, more than half the time, the need for validation is coming from the inner child. Brilliant, wonderful. It's a portal to healing. There is no criticism to that. The inner child wants to be validated that it should not be shamed, wants to be seen for its expression. The inner child wants to have a voice. The inner child wants to be calmed, all of its needs. The inner child wants to heal from being criticized. One of the medicines of that is healthy validation. This awareness for me over the last couple of years has really been a big shift for me. Thinking that, knowing that, believing that the ego wants to heal. I used to vilify my ego, that it was something to suppress, it was something to critique, it was something that needed to be put in its place. Except I'm aware now that I created my ego. I am the leader of my mind. I'm the parent of my mind. I'm the soul that gave birth to a little being named Danielle that has a mind in this dimension, in this construct. I agreed to have a mind. It's part of incarnating. You get a mind. It's not the same as a brain. You get a mind. You get a form of consciousness. And that mind creates ego. And that ego serves a purpose. The ego wants to protect you. The ego wants to divide everything between safe and not safe, healthy, not healthy, good, bad. Except the ego unabated, the ego unobserved will create more division than is good for us. Too many political parties, too many identities, too many opinions, right? Everybody's got an ego and then everybody has an opinion. Okay, so I think a healing concept to consider is that the need for validation is actually your inner child wanting to be integrated. It's the ego wanting to settle down. It's the ego wanting to be led. It's asking for direction. Okay. This doesn't sound like great news. That our choices and partners in all relationships, including our professional relationships and familiar relationships and relationship with strangers, old friends, new friends, all relationships are determined by our unhealed wounds. This is fantastic news. This is how we evolve. This is how we fall more deeply in love. This is how we become more courageous in all forms of intimacy. This is how we serve the world. This is how we end genocide. This is how we clean up lakes and rivers. Through all of the shit that gets kicked up in relationship. So all relationships, divine assignments, we've all heard that if we've been on the path for a while. There's a podcast I did. It's episode 100. It's called Is Your Inner Child Choosing Your Relationships? And I'll just give you the spoiler alert. The answer is yes. So, this is why we attract what we attract. The healthier you get, the healthier your relationships. You get in a healthy relationship, the stuff still comes up, but you've attracted a healthy person who can meet the stuff with you. And you are a healthy person, so you can meet that person's stuff. So the inner child is going to seek someone who is going to trigger familiar wounds that came from your family of origin stuff. This is why we marry people who are our fathers or our mothers or our cousins. And then we wake up. I'm just going to diverge for a second. Here's the quick sequence of healing. We get wiser, we get more committed to our spiritual path. We realize, oh my God, I married my mother, my father, whatever. I married the abandonment issue. I married the neglect. I married the silencing. I married the strategic criticism. We get that. That's a revelation. We go into therapy, we get counseling, we get coaching, we see the pattern. We want to dissolve the pattern so we don't keep attracting it in the next relationship or perpetuate it with our kid or the people we work with, etc. But the bigger picture, I think the soul perspective is that it's not just that we create patterns in life based on family of origin. It's that the soul says, this is something you need to work out. I'm going to give you a family of origin to help you work this out. So the issue comes before the family. You understand? So let's say the soul says, all right, Danielle, this lifetime, you're going to work on that agony of not being wanted. So I'm going to send you to a mother who gets pregnant in high school. This is my story, by the way. So I'm going to send you, you're going to be an accidental pregnancy. Your mother's going to have to quit high school to have you. There's going to be all sorts of rocky marriage. Oh my gosh. So no one's sure if they really want to stay together, which makes you feel unwanted most of your life. And then you're going to have a career where you have all this visibility, but for a long time, you're just kind of seeking visibility to heal this wanted wound. And then you're going to feel like you're on the outside of all the visible things. All your friends are going to get on Oprah, but you're not going to get on Oprah until you see the pattern, you dissolve the pattern, you forgive everybody who contributed to the pattern in this lifetime, and you realize the divinity of the choice. All of this is an opportunity to heal that not wanted agony. Oh my gosh, this goes back to the great news of everybody I've attracted and the fact that my woundedness, my ego, my shadow, my inner child is actually magnetizing most of my relationships to me. Now, I become more of the parent in my life. I move from an orientation of inner child to inner leader. I get healthier. I parent my woundedness. I make better choices in relationships. I pair with, team with people who clearly, cleanly express that I am wanted in whatever way. Okay, this is the diamond of our time together. Our capacity to hold space and substantiate our emotions, I'll go through this a few times, and other people's emotions is one of our greatest strengths. This is the beauty of inner child work. This is the transmutation of thinking our inner child is an annoyance. We see our inner child as one of the greatest gifts ever. Our shadow is one of our greatest gifts. It's just like, for those of us who are parents, whether it's human kids, adopted kids, fur babies, little, for those of us who have ever loved a child, we know the gift of that. Can we experience that expansion and gratitude for our own darkness? That's the Yogananda stuff. Thank you, Shadow. I mean, one of the most inspiring things VS ever said to me. So, for those of you who are new, VS is the metaphysical practitioner we work with. I co create a lot of this with her, all the meditations. She said, if it weren't for the shadow, I wouldn't know Christ, meaning Christ consciousness. I mean, you work with people of that caliber who are initiates and practitioners, who, really face and eat insanity and agony and transmute other people's suffering for breakfast. And they're grateful for that because it helps them know their Buddha nature. This is why, we have to be careful in saying, I would love to be a healer. I want to be a light worker. I want to be a spiritual leader. Just be super mindful what you wish for. Okay, let me give you the definition of substantiate. It's a verb to provide evidence to support or prove the truth of, to validate. So, our capacity to hold space and to prove the truth of, to validate emotions, is one of our greatest strengths. So, let me give you the super practical of this. Your neediness comes up, your inner child comes up and says, I need for them to tell me I'm wanted. I need for them to tell me that I belong. I need to be paid what I'm worth. I need for them to say I'm sorry. I really want them to say thank you for how I contributed. I want to be acknowledged for my work in the world. You see how we go from needy inner child to like sounds a little more inner leader, a little more queen. Okay. That's our greatest strength, to be able to say, I see those needs. I honor your needs. When you can hold space and honor somebody's most base needs, their reactiveness to be met, seen, heard, or their queen kingness to be seen, heard, understood, you expand. You're holding space. You're the sky for their clouds. That's powerful. Okay. So, how do we heal? This isn't quite it. This is the meta of healing, but we heal proactively, specifically, and with compassion. So, you're all here because you want to heal. You're all here on the planet because you incarnated because you want to heal. But you're all here right now because you're conscious that you actually want to heal. You want to do it with intention. So, you're being proactive about it. You have to do it specifically. You've got to find out what the screwed up tapes are, what your inner mean girl is saying. You've got to look at the shadow stuff. You've got to look at the bad habits. Now, we don't get stuck with identifying with the bad habits, but we got to see the weeds in the garden so we know where to pluck. And then you do all of that with compassion. So you see where you're messed up. Oh, isn't it sweet, entertaining, amusing, a great opportunity that you're messed up? Yes. So, seeing where and how we seek validation has to be examined. So, we have a question. We'll get to the question. This is a belief. You can choose to play with it. Validation is a wholly human desire for connection. That's it. It's the ego wanting to be healed. Validation, obviously, it's the opposite of invalidation. But if we really push it out, validation is the opposite of annihilation. If you get into various mystical texts and teaching, you will see that one of the qualities of the dark night of the soul is feeling annihilated. This word comes up a lot in mysticism. It's an absence. You feel the absence of light, the absence of a higher power, or you feel that that higher power does not even want for your existence, no longer wants for you. Annihilation. So, if we pour the light on that, validation, healthy validation gets us home. Healthy validation gets us to unity. We are seen, we're felt, we're heard, we're understood. Our existence is celebrated, is honored. So, seeking validation. So, the reason I put these in bold, seeking validation can be healing or it can be damaging. Giving validation can be healing or it can be damaging. Receiving validation can be healing or it can be a step backwards. It can be shadow on shadow. We're here to take that can be and make it a yes, that this is healing. Okay, question. What are your synonyms for validation? When you hear the word validation, what do you think? What do you crave? What do you feel? What's it vibe like for you? Other words for validation. Comfort. Yeah. Unity. Please make me real. Mm. Understanding, witness, sharing, communion, recognition, approval, being right, connection, shared meaning. How about reciprocity, existence, honor, belonging, namaste, lighten me, lighten you, yada, 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 the divine, etc., accepted, soulful celebration. That's a great definition for healthy validation. Verbalized understanding. Yes, that reminds me, validation doesn't always have to be verbal. So beautiful when it is, right? Could also be touch. It could just be your presence. It's you walking into the room, and because you do the work and you're aligned with soul and you're embodying love, forgiveness, resilience, radiance, all those things, just you being in the room is a validation of somebody. Seeing my soul essence. Namaste is the divine in me meets the divine in you. Maybe that's the shortest definition of healthy validation. Namaste. All right, I hope you're feeling more centered in your requirements, in your neediness some days, in your potential demands, and in your higher desires for validation. In some ways, this episode is a bit of a finale because I've been jamming for a few weeks on the Heart-Centered Membership Registration Week. And this is it. This is the last time I'm going to be talking about the doors being open for many months. As of midnight tonight, Sunday, June 30th, registration closes so that we can keep it private, go deep, be in a sacred container. And we're not going to open the doors for signups until 2025. So now is the time, not just because it's Sunday, June 30th, but because nervous system regulation will make your life so much better. It is how we clean up all kinds of things because the world is suffering. We're in need of more heart-centeredness, more loving kindness, more resilience. And it's from these micro and macro practices and a conscious community that we become more radiant. And that's my wish for everybody in this space, to radiance. DanielleLaporte.com/heart-centered membership. And I will see you, hear you, give to you all I got next Wednesday on With Love, Danielle. Thank you so much for listening, for feeling, for spreading the word. With love.